Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, really glad you're with us for the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Good, bad, crazy news for you today. The first two dealing with a verdict that never even should have gone to a jury, never even should have been filed, with the case of Daniel Penny in New York City, going back a year and a half, what his life has been through as a result of subduing a subway passenger who was menacing and threatening other passengers. Many people said that at the time. It's the Daniel Penny case. Jordan Neely was the one who was put in the chokehold. Jim, we're going to be talking about how the media is characterizing this, how Black Lives Matter is characterizing this. But before we get into the details of it, it's just crazy that this even got as far as it did.
You know, Greg, I have not ever been a victim of a crime on the New York City subway. But a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, I was up on the New York doing a media hit, and I've taken the subway from the train station to the studio, and there was this altercation. I think one guy tripped another or something, ended up spilling a bunch of food, and these two guys just start going at it. And everybody, it was a fairly crowded train, but enough room for people to maneuver. And Greg, you would think people figured out a way to phase into the walls. It was amazing the way people scattered and disappeared. And I found myself with these two guys fighting right in front of me. This is when my kids were much younger. And I just went into dad mode and I said, "Knock it off, both of you, knock it off." Listeners, you'll be shocked to learn they did not, in fact, knock it off. And in fact, for a split second, so one guy had beaten the hell out of the other guy, and he's standing above him. And after my knock it off, I was like, all right, you showed him. And he kind of looks at me, and he's got this crazed look in his eyes. And I'm like, oh crap, I've just called his attention to me. And now the question is he going to decide that I'm the next problem? I'm the next victim he has to solve. But he's panting and he's breathing. And then the dumb guy at his feet kicks him, or tries to kick him in the crotch. And the fight continues again. So, Greg, of all the places you can be a victim of a crime or a potential victim of a crime, I think a New York City subway car ranks among the highest.
First, we got to tell you about Omaha Steaks. It is December 10th, 2 weeks left until Christmas. You want these things to arrive no later than Christmas Eve, obviously, and you still have time. That's the good news. But we've been talking about this for a number of weeks, so if you haven't done it yet, get those orders in because you're not going to get a better deal than this. Save 50% site-wide at omahasteaks.com during the Christmas gift buying season, plus get an extra $30 off with the promo code 3ML. I've talked about it a number of times. The amazing burgers, really good size. They're not heavy in your stomach. Great sides with the fries. A lot of flavor in those burgers. A lot of flavor, obviously, in the steaks, whether it's the sirloin or the filet mignon. You can't go wrong with Omaha Steaks. Every time I've gotten them, and I've gotten them lots of times, they are fantastic. So once again, visit omahasteaks.com and save 50% off site-wide during the Christmas gift buying season. Promo code 3ML. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with the promo code 3ML. Minimum purchase may apply. All right, Jim, this seemed like an open and shut case because it shouldn't have even been a case in the first place. But as of late last week, the jury had been deadlocked for a number of days. And then on Friday, we found out they were deadlocked on manslaughter charges. So the judge dismissed that, leaving them with the lesser charge. It sounds worse, but it's the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. And then very quickly on Monday, the jury came back. Here's Harris Faulkner on the Fox News Channel.
Breaking news. The jury has reached a unanimous verdict in the case of Daniel Penny. He's been found not guilty on the charge of criminally negligent homicide. Now, remember what was at stake here. The jury could not agree on manslaughter. They failed to agree twice. The judge gave them another bite at the apple on this lesser charge, negligent. They now say not guilty.
So, Jim, this is good given the details of the case. There's a slew of witnesses that said Jordan Neely, whatever mental health issues he might have been struggling with, was a threat to passengers that day. Daniel Penny did not, slug him and just relentlessly beat him. He put him in a hold to subdue him, and Neely was still alive when the police got there. In a normal situation, if you don't get a medal, you at least get a thanks from City Hall or something like that for protecting passengers. But Alvin Bragg, of course, who lets the violent criminals walk through a no bail system and so forth, decides to throw the book at Daniel Penny. The mental stress, the emotional stress, the financial stress over the last year and a half or whatever it's been, good for him. And thankfully, a black eye for Alvin Bragg, who once again doesn't know who the good guys and the bad guys are.
Penny, get this man a book deal. This is a guy who probably could use a generous advance and the traditional benefits that come with fame in circumstances like this. You know, Greg, you look at Alvin Bragg, we've seen a whole bunch of these deep blue city DAs go down in flames, often with referendums, often through recall elections. Hasn't happened in New York yet, hoping this will happen soon or he'll be voted out of office at the next regularly scheduled opportunity. But yeah, we've seen this phenomenon where badly managed deep blue cities drive out the kind of people who would be inclined to vote for the reformer. Many good reformers can be Republican, but conceivably you could have a Democrat who would want to do that. But the idea is that bad management makes people say, I don't want to live in this city anymore. And those with means and those who pay attention to these sorts of things are the kind of people who are going to say, I'm going to move out to the suburbs, I'm going to move somewhere else in the country. And the ones who are left are the ones who are wealthy enough and live in a safe enough neighborhood that it never bothers them. Or they're too poor, they can't move anywhere else and they don't have any options, but they don't have it. There's in other words, there's kind of this self-selection that the people who are left are the ones who are least likely to try to take action to change the way the city government chooses to deal with crime. In this case, but there's still one last line of defense, and that is the jury. And that's what happened in this case, thankfully. A maniacal DA or a DA who, protects the criminals and decides to punish the victims and punish the people who are, in this case, Good Samaritans, those who choose to intervene to protect others, they can do a lot of damage. And as much as we have some good news in this one, the acquittal is very good news. I think, if there had been a hung jury, sometimes prosecutors will say, okay, this isn't a winnable case. Sometimes they go back to the well a second time. Look, this could have turned out bad. And it did not turn out bad. And in light of other events of the day, it was a pretty good day for the criminal justice system. The one that Joe Biden told us a couple of days ago is biased and is always, it can't be trusted. Yes,
exactly. We're going to spend all day today in the New York City criminal justice system, as a matter of fact. But yes, I mean, this is, again, a case that never should have been brought. Alvin Bragg, I believe, is in fact up for re-election next year, same time the mayor of New York City is. He's the district attorney of Manhattan, not the entire city. And I believe his re-election campaign will be entirely premised on, I convicted Trump, and try to distract everybody from the fact that their neighborhoods are less safe and other parts of the city are less safe. And had this gone differently in this verdict, I think things would have been a lot less safe. We can talk about that in the next segment as well. So in the meantime, let's talk about Lumen. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And the best part is that it works and it's simple. You literally wake up in the morning, grab your Lumen, inhale, exhale into your Lumen, and it'll tell you right away, are you burning fat? Are you burning carbs? And then it gives you tailored guidance for your nutrition that day, insights on your workouts, sleep, and even stress management.
Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food that you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. And because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, ideal metabolic health translates to a whole host of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, and even better sleep. And Lumen will give you recommendations to improve your metabolic health.
So if you want to stay on track with your health this holiday season, it couldn't be easier. Go to lumen.me/3ml to get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/3ml for 15% off your purchase. And Lumen makes a great gift too. Again, that's lumen.me/3ml. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. All right, Jim, let's look at the downside of what we saw yesterday. I mean, the acquittal is the thing that really, really matters here, but there's definitely some things to be nervous about here, to be frustrated about. Let's start real quickly with the media's characterization of this story. First of all, the Associated Press tweet, breaking, Daniel Penny, the veteran who used a chokehold on subway rider Jordan Neely, has been acquitted in Neely's death. Boy, you would think that that's leaving out
subway
some
rider.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
That's all he is. Just a guy in a subway.
Yeah. Left-hand column on the front page of the New York Times above the fold. Jury acquits man who was choking rider on subway. Cleared of homicide. And then the first paragraph doesn't even get to the meat of the story. Daniel Penny, a former Marine who choked a fellow subway rider on an Uptown F train last year, was acquitted on a charge of criminally negligent homicide on Monday, ending a case that had come to exemplify New York City's post-pandemic struggles. But let's move on to Black Lives Matter, because I'm sure they're taking this well. This is Hawk Newsome, the head of Black Lives Matter New York, and he has decided that because this was somehow a miscarriage of justice, that we need lots of vigilantes who are black now.
We need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
For being loud, Hawk Newsome says. Now, thankfully, as far as I know, there was no major, even minor unrest in New York City last night. If there was, it was very, very minor and didn't catch my attention. But Jim, notice how much the media narrative corresponds to that. Not that the media is endorsing vigilantism on a wider scale at all, but in terms of the facts of the case, the media seems to drift more towards the BLM version of the facts, which are nowhere near the truth. And meanwhile, there's people who are probably still going to be nervous about helping anyone if they see what Daniel Penny's been through. So the ramifications of this case, even though it turned out the right way, are not zero.
You know, you hear the term vigilantism. Makes you sound like Penny was putting on a bat suit and going out at night and stalking the criminals of New York City. No, he was on the subway train when he saw this happening in front of him. He didn't go looking for trouble. He was not seeking a confrontation. He was not seeking to inflict vengeance upon the criminals of the city. To use a phrase from one of our favorite movies, just a guy in the wrong place at the wrong time, and did what he thought was right to protect someone who was being threatened. And I think probably everybody thinks about that. I described my incident on the subway. Two guys fighting each other. There was no discernible, clear aggressor and victim. It was not a little lady, not a child, something like that. I'd like to think that if the circumstances had been different, I would have intervened. I don't even remember which. They might have been white. They might have been Latino. I'm not sure. They were swarthy, shall we say, but not discernible of race. You kind of sit there and think, if I saw someone being attacked, if I saw someone in danger, would I have the courage to act? And I think it's always bad when somebody says we need more we need more people, we actually, basically, I guess in that case, Hawk is calling for an affirmative action program for vigilantes. He wants vigilantes on the streets look like America. This has been a white-dominated phenomenon for way too long, going back to the days of
Bernie Getz.
Bernie Getz, thank you. One of the few people still living from Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire.
That's right.
The kinds of trivia rattling around in my head. But anyway, if you're in New York or any one of these cities, do you want to intervene? Do you want to take that risk? Not just the risk of you're intervening and God knows if the guy has a knife, does he have a gun? Is there a risk of you being injured by this person who's attacking someone else? But even if things go well, will you be portrayed as the villain? Will the person who was attacking this other person be portrayed as the victim? Will people see you as some sort of violent racist maniac because you had the audacity to step in when someone was being victimized right in front of your own two eyes? This is where it really gets toxic, where so the Kitty Genovese story is a little bit of a urban legend. It turns out that there were not as many but it's sort of this infamous story of, New Yorkers don't care. New Yorkers, plenty of New Yorkers do care. But now there's this new factor of even if you do the right thing, even if things do turn out well, will someone with a political agenda decide that because of the color of your skin, there's an opportunity to make headlines and try to prosecute you for intervening and doing the right thing, for what I think a lot of people would characterize as being a good Samaritan. Yes, the verdict is what we wanted to see here, but the kind of cultural consequences of this maybe go on for quite some time and be much more far-reaching than just New York City.
No, I think you're right about that. That will be in the back of everyone's mind if they want to intervene. They're probably hesitant to intervene anyway because they, have concern about their own personal safety. But if their chivalry or whatever else tends to override that, the idea of being persecuted and prosecuted by Alvin Bragg for the next year and a half might be another reason to not get involved, and that could lead to serious problems and death. Hopefully voters have an option next year that will be better than what they've got right now. In the meantime, talk about better options for your small business. Let's talk about NetSuite by Oracle. Nobody knows exactly what the future is going to hold for your business. If you ask a bunch of experts, you probably get a bunch of different answers. But some things you can be sure of. For example, more than 38,000 businesses have future-proofed their operations with NetSuite by Oracle, the leading cloud ERP platform. It integrates key business functions like accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one seamless system, ensuring businesses are ready for the future.
Gain real-time insights and forecasting to make proactive, data-driven decisions. With actionable data at your fingertips, you can anticipate trends and respond faster to opportunities. Think about closing your books within days, not weeks, which means you spend less time on past reports and more time focusing on future growth. This efficiency lets you shift your attention from historical tasks to strategic initiatives that will drive your business forward.
Look, if your business, whether it's huge or whether it's smaller, isn't using the latest tools to make your life easier, to save you time, you're going to be behind. I talk with small business experts all the time, and these tools are coming online. The best ones you can possibly get is NetSuite by Oracle. Download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/martini. The guide is free to you at netsuite.com/martini. That's netsuite.com/martini.
This liberal attorney general thinks it's Amazon's fault? The Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski. Every day, Chris helps unpack the connection between politics and the economy and how it affects your wallet. The AG of D.C. is going after Amazon because of delivery times in rough neighborhoods. Maybe if he would go after the crime, the deliveries would come quicker. Amazon's just protecting their employees. Whether it's happening in D.C. or down on Wall Street, it's affecting you financially. Be informed. Check out the Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
All right, Jim, the other issue in New York City yesterday was the arrest of the alleged CEO killer. Remember last week, Brian Thompson was killed not quite in broad daylight because the sun hadn't quite come up yet, a little before 7 a.m. on the streets of Midtown Manhattan outside the Hilton Hotel where Thompson was arriving for a meeting. A husband, father, a CEO of UnitedHealthcare Insurance. You could see from the security footage that the killer just casually pulls out the gun, fires a number of shots. Thompson staggers and eventually dies. And then the killer is on the loose. And eventually the city's like, oh, we're pretty sure he left the city. I think he left on a bus from the Port Authority. Ultimately arrested yesterday at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Still apparently had the gun on him. And now the suspect is identified as Luigi Mangione, who comes from what would be considered a quote-unquote privileged background, valedictorian of a private school in Maryland, went to Penn, but apparently had quite a massive beef that he wrote out in a manifesto about the healthcare system. And so this is obviously a targeted killing. The charge is second-degree murder, not first-degree murder. It certainly seemed premeditated, but hey, in New York City, you never know what you're going to get from this DA's office. So, Jim, you wrote about this a lot in today's Morning Jolt. This story has a lot of strange aspects to it from what we know already.
Look, there were many things that were disturbing about it. Maybe there's a lot of competition, but maybe the most disturbing aspect was the degree to which he almost instantaneously, at least in certain depraved circles of the internet, was turned into some sort of folk hero.
Yep.
The idea that, finally, angry patients are taking it to the health insurance companies. I think what Kat Rosenfeld had described it as John Wick meets Aaron Brockovich, right? This idea that somehow this was a crusader, this was somebody striking back at the system. And look, we've learned a lot in the last 24 hours. We're probably going to learn more in the coming days. But in the end, this was just somebody who wanted to kill somebody. Allegedly, because he has not been convicted in a court of law. But come on, it's on video. They found him with the weapon. But this is a case of somebody who probably enjoyed a lot more privileges and a lucky start in life than you, me, and most of our listeners. Wealthy family, owned, not just country clubs and real estate, but healthcare facilities. A little bit of irony there. Went to one of the finest prep schools in Baltimore, graduated valedictorian, went to University of Pennsylvania, got both a bachelor's and a master's degree. By the way, in this house, he was also involved in the high school robotics program, with which both Garrity offspring were like, oh, well, they teach us we really can do anything in these programs. And lo and behold, they're a little disappointed didn't use a drone. But anyway, so here's the, goes to work for a game studio, an online car marketplace. As far as we know, financially, he's doing fine. Reportedly had back issues his whole life, may have exacerbated. He did hiking, and then apparently went to Hawaii, and apparently was in some surf club. At some point, he had back surgery. At least that's the best knowledge of it. Now, there's no reports of him having difficulty paying for that surgery or insurance not covering something he wanted. Maybe subsequent reporting will bring any to this, but this does not sound like a guy, like when this happened, we're like, oh, health insurance wouldn't cover something for somebody's loved one. And that's what drove them to the rage to want to kill somebody over it. At least as far as we know so far, that is not the case. Apparently dropped off the radar screen a couple months ago. Nobody knew what he was doing. Presumably, he was 3D printing that firearm and the silencer, which, by the way, gave us a little explanation about why the gun did not seem to work perfectly. You're dealing with, 3D printed parts all put together there. But think about it, like somebody who was bright, somebody who had all kinds of advantages in life, all kinds of opportunities in life. Could have done anything he wanted with his life, and he chose to become a murderer and being found with a manifesto, effectively a terrorist. And just the mind-boggling degree to which that's what you choose to do with your life. Like that is also in today's list. In today's Morning Jolt, I go through all the different ways. If you want to help the uninsured, there are free and low-cost clinics all across the country that cover the uninsured or those with not enough insurance. They will always appreciate donations. They will always appreciate volunteering. You can raise money for them. You can raise awareness for them. There's all kinds of things you could do. You know what doesn't help anybody who's struggling with an issue with their insurance company? Shooting somebody in the back. And yet that's what this guy did. And there are a whole bunch of people out there who wanted to turn him into a hero. Finally, one, just perhaps like the ultimate example of the state of our culture in 2024. Amazon and various other online retailers had to take down merchandising based on this, either using the messages that were inscribed on the shell casings and also the images taken from the video of the shooting. Now, Lenin had said that the capitalists will sell us the rope to hang them with. And I looked on Amazon. You can buy all kinds of merchandise and souvenirs and tchotchkes with Lenin on it. So who won that one in the end? I think the capitalists figured out a way how to make money off Lenin.
No, it's been fascinating to listen to people talk about this. And, some people on the left think this guy is handsome. And so they've turned him into basically the younger Tsarnaev brother.
You beat me to it. I was about to say, Rolling Stone cover, here he comes,
Exactly.
He's so dreamy as he shoots the man in the back. But for some reason, that sticks in my craw. Like if he'd shot him, face to face, you'd at least look the man in the eye. Like that's the degree to which he's celebrated as a hero, when in fact it was just about the most cowardly thing you could do.
People closer to our age pointing out that his brother Luigi's brother Mario, very disappointed. But the one person who we mentioned in passing last week, Taylor Lorenz, that you're allowed to talk about now because she's no longer with the Washington Post, said she felt joy, and then Piers Morgan got into a huge fight with her. Piers Morgan had her back on, and they got into it again. But here's how Taylor Lorenz saying, "Oh, you never let me explain what I was joyful about." Here's what she said in her explanation, and I'm not sure it's any better.
Would you like to apologize for using the word joy?
Again, if you take the word joy completely out of context from the word that I said it,
would you like to?
It was because
would you like to
I'm so glad you
apologize?
just played the clip.
Yes or no?
You just played the clip that showed that I said I feel joy because, and that's right when you cut me off. So let me tell you why I feel joy. I feel joy because people like you, who are rich and powerful and on TV and have all the access to all the healthcare privileges in the world, are finally being forced to pay attention to the barbaric healthcare system that murders tens of thousands of innocent Americans. And that is what I feel joy in, that people like you are forced to confront those systemic problems. That's what I'm joyful.
Yeah, I knew it would be my fault as well at some stage.
So there you go. Single payer or we start shooting again, I guess, is the left's approach to this in some sectors.
Of all the terrible things Taylor Lorenz has done, Greg, she's got me rooting for Piers Morgan. By the way, I'm only hearing the audio for that, Greg. Was she wearing a mask when she was making?
No, but she was not in studio. Yeah.
Was she raw dogging the air the way that,
by her definition? Yes.
You notice that, I refrained from commenting, didn't mean I didn't pay attention. A couple days ago, in passing reference, I'd said that when you, and Greg, you're very much in this world too. Politics attracts crazy people. The media attracts crazy people. And the internet attracts crazy people. So if you write about politics on the internet, you, I, and a good portion of our listeners, I suspect, are at the center of a 3-ring Venn diagram. To use one of Kamala Harris's favorite, visual metaphors. Yes. And so we're just in a concentrated point of crazy people. I have worked over the course of my career with all kinds of people who are kind of lovably eccentric. And then you run into a lot of people who are like, wow, that guy's off the deep end when they start ranting about conspiracies or stuff like that. And then there are people where like we're making fun of Taylor Lorenz, but I feel a little bit like this is a woman who has like really deep-rooted problems. And you hope somebody in her life cares about her and is going to say, you're not doing yourself any good. You really seem to be short a couple knives in your cutlery drawer, so to speak. And while you're at it, take away her cutlery. You don't, just as a precaution. You don't know where this thing is going to go here. And just I hope somebody there's kind of funny watching somebody have a meltdown. Alan Lichtman right now is hilarious, right? The way that he insisted just this past weekend that Assad could make a comeback because he still had two of the keys that were.
He had the literal keys to the palace, I guess.
You want to talk about some bald truths, right? That this guy's willing to offer. Anyway, so the media world is full of crazy people, but sometimes it's sad when you watch somebody unraveling like that. I hope somebody is able to stage an intervention and things get better. But maybe in the meantime, maybe we should not be putting somebody on camera and they can, rant and rave and talk about how murder is awesome and such. So anyway, hey, happy Tuesday, America.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos, Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Do be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you don't already. Tell your friends to do it as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. They're a big help to us. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great Tuesday and join us again on Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.